Howdy, fellas. I'm back. Oh, no, that's the wrong... I'm not going to correct it. Who gives a fuck? It's actually round 5. It says round 4, but it's wrong. This is the last round of Cancon that I'm back with. Jumping on, recording fresh after watching my boy Bobby Knuckles lose to Adesanya. So, a little bit disappointed, but what better way to soothe my pain than some beers and chatting about ninth. So, this was the last round. I can't remember where I was exactly, but like on the standings, I think it was pretty close apart from like the top couple or the top one. And essentially, if I won big, there was a chance that I could get on the podium, but it also depended on other results as well. So I think like even if I won big, some other results could probably still... like if I won 20-0, I think other people winning 20-0 could still be ahead of me anyway. So, sort of was relying on other people as well as my game to look at getting a podium. My opponent, who's one of my mates, Henry, lives in Victoria now, used to live up in Sydney. One of like the very first people that I met when I was playing 8th edition. Maybe, like, of sort of like what I would regard as my current group, I'm pretty sure I played my first game against Henry, when he had some monocorn rush list against my ogres and absolutely crushed me, and I had no idea what to do. Sitting there with my shitty ogres as like a starting player against this beautifully painted and converted corn army, and sitting there going like, I know that I don't want to fight it, but I also know that I don't have the shooting to kill him. What do I do? But these days he's coming around with Saurian Ancients. I think he's still working on some of these models. I'm actually printing off... I printed off one Carnosaur for him, but I was having some trouble because I'm a 3D printing noob, so I haven't gotten both of them for him. But even the stuff that he's done on his models so far looks so fucking good. So I'm really keen to see how it ends up looking. Basically, he's rocked up with 2 Alpha Carnosaurs, 2 blocks of Crocodile Saurian Warriors, 2 units of Raptor Riders, a big unit of Rampedons, 2 Spearbacks, 2 Pteranodon Sentry units, and a Stygiasaur. Pretty much looking at this, I think that because the Carnosaur hits my Beast Lord on 6s because of Eye of Dominance, I was basically sort of thinking I don't want them to charge my Gortach, because going first they'll just kill me. My Gortach's charging them, I'm kind of happy to do, because likely I think that Warlord can't kill me, and my Gortach's a pretty good chance to kill a Carnosaur, particularly if I get him a buff off. Like this sort of, I think this was maybe a slightly favourable match, because there wasn't much he could do, given that he couldn't charge one Carnosaur. Realistically, because I have my Shamanism guy at the front, realistically, unless it was like a flank charge or something, the Carnosaurs can't engage my characters. And they've got Swift Stride, but I think move 7 against my Gortach not having Swift Stride and having move 7. But being both single models, it was going to be hard for him to force an engagement there. So I sort of felt like I had like a matchup advantage in some of the key areas here. And the fact that the secondary was scoring units was always going to favour me, because if I want, I can ambush all 3 of my scoring units and just leave them away from relevance. In this game I didn't. I deployed my Mongrels because they're kind of an important combat unit for me, I think. Like they've got a pretty decent output, so I was happy to risk losing them to actually have their threat on the board, whereas as soon as my Wildhorns came on, I basically put them as far away from Henry's army as I could. I'll get into it. What do we got? Okay, this is... Boy. This is not after deployment. This is a little bit into the game by the looks of it. I must have forgotten. I did have the UFC on my phone at the time, so I was also a little bit distracted. Okay, so this is my first picture. What's going on here? Basically, this was the attack and defender deployment. Henry gave me, I want to say, big... Basically, I want to say he gave me big middle. That's what I think. I set up my Gortach on the left. There's a piece of... So, I'll just... Like, this is a little bit into the game, but I'll just explain what's happening. Basically, around this piece of Impassable, I set up my Gortach to the left, sort of thinking about doing a similar thing that I did against Dave in round 2, where I try to control the right-hand side of the board, and the Gortachs are just sort of zoning things, but not necessarily needing to engage on the left. And on the left, basically, Chariots are dominating the center. I don't know how my Mongrels ended up all the way there. I put both my Giants here. One of them sort of snuck into a little spot here. He had his Cav on the right-hand side here. These are just Pteranodons. These are here, one Unitosaurus. On the other... Are we getting there? On the other side of the board, he basically had his Rippers, I think, protecting against ambushes. He had both his Carnos. He had his Stygiosaur, and he had his other block of Saurus. So I wasn't really keen, because he's got like a 3-up armor in combat. I wasn't keen for my Giants to engage his Saurus. This is actually after I sort of got a sneaky little charge. He had a unit of Cav in here. Okay, that's what happened. So he had a unit of Cav in here. The Giant had a sneaky spot where he could charge the Spearbacks. Got into them, killed them, ran off the board. The Mongrels were around about where the Gargoyles were. And I think for some reason... maybe the Cav had turned to the left, like facing to the left. Yeah, I think... Whatever it was, the Mongrels got a charge into their flank, basically. So, whether they were facing right or left, the Mongrels, who were roughly where the Gargoyles were, had a charge into their flank. I think they needed a 10, but there wasn't really a problem with going for it. So, went for that, got in, butchered them, ran them down, and got out of the line of sight of the Saurus here. And I chaffed the Knights with my Gargoyles. I think because there was a concern if I was expecting basically that I'd break the Cav, but before I sort of measured things, I think it was sort of like, well, I'm probably going to turn around and just face these Saurus, so I don't want to be charged by both the Cav and the Saurus. So I chaffed them for that reason, set up a counter charge basically where I've still got chaff to decide what I want to do. Can send the Giant in, but I wasn't really loving the Giant on the Cav matchup because they've got a 2-up armor save. I must not have ambushed my Wildhorns. No, this must be my turn 2 because I didn't get that on turn 1. So this is actually my turn 2, and my Wildhorns have just come over here because it's where they felt safest, given that this Cav could still cause them some trouble, basically. Okay. And then, yeah, on the left, basically, I was just keeping sort of out of charge range of his Carnos, knowing that basically if he moved in to a chargeable range, I'm happy to take that charge and probably... Actually, don't know what the maths is. But in my head, I was like, yeah, I can probably take out an Alpha... Like, with impact hits and with my attacks, I can probably kill the Alpha Carno. Which is a shade under double the points that a Gortach has, basically. So that was pretty much my plan here. I was like, I'm going to win the objective by killing the Cav and the Saurus over on the right, and I'm going to keep this stuff from doing too much. Okay. So over here was a bit of a mistake for one. Okay. Yeah, let's just talk about this. Okay. I don't have the best pitches in this game, in all honesty. It looks like I've missed Henry's entire turn. And we've come back to mine. This is, I think, even after my turn. So basically, with my Mongrels, I looked at them and I went... didn't have a great place for them other than I had to turn them to face the Saurus Warriors. His Cav were roughly where you see them. And I charged them with my Gargoyles and my Giants. The reason why I felt that I had to charge them was because I was like, I don't want to turn my Chariots around and sort of have to deal with them. Though that was probably the smarter play at this point. So I didn't want to do that, but I also didn't want to give his cav the chance to attack my ambushes. So what I was thinking was, I was like, if I charge my gargoyles in, I can take up the frontage of the cav, and then my giant can just corner clip. Sure, my giant's AP is 0, but like having 5 auto hits wounding on 3s, he has to roll his saves. I do have 8 attacks, 6, yeah, 8 attacks from the gargoyles, hitting, 75% of the time if I get primal off. Wounding on 4s, he's got a 3 up. Every wound I do matters, and because I've got good defensive buffs from Druidism, I can buff up the gargoyles to actually make them really hard to kill, because they're already toughness 4, they're already defensive 4, and he's only offensive 4, strength 4 when I charge him. The reason this was a mistake was because it wasn't if this was an isolated combat, I'd be like, yeah, look, it's fine. Like, I'll take this risk. Maybe it slightly favors me. It's a scoring unit, like, goodo. The reason I think this was a mistake is because I should have just chaffed them. I probably should have faced my chariots towards them, but I could have set up counters with probably both my Wildhorns and my giants, and like weight of attacks, static res from ranks, like probably beaten them. What I did here was I had a combat that was favoring me, I think. I'm not really sure on the maths and I haven't done it, but favoring me, but not like overwhelmingly favoringly. I did end up with 4-up regen on the gargoyles, by the way. But the end result was, I think I got probably the amount of wounds I should do, and Henry got a little bit lucky on the amount of wounds that he should do. But, he only did 4 wounds by the looks of it. I did 2. So it looks like I lost by 1 because I charged. When you're dealing with sort of small variables like that, I think that it's it's very easy to sort of be like, cool, like I should win the combat by 2, but then like very small amount of things can change that so that you don't. And the problem here is the fact that as soon as I lost, the gargoyles were, I think, in range of my general, so they were leadership 8. The giant was leadership 7 because of -1. And I managed to make the giant's discipline test. But it's very, very reasonable for me to fail the leadership 8, fail the leadership 7, because there's no rerolls on the board or anything. And if I fail both of them, all of a sudden he can turn around and face the rear of my mongrels. As soon as he charges them in the rear, they won't, if they get charged by the Saurus, they won't get their extra +1 AP from the spears. Which means that presumably I will pop my strength banner, but the Saurus will still get a 5-up armor. I'll get the 6, or maybe there's a champ, maybe 7, strength 6 from the back. There's 6, strength 4 from the raptors. I feel like as soon as they go into the rear of my mongrels, that combat against the Saurus I'm a lot less comfortable with. What have I got? I'd still have the extra rank of attack, so I wouldn't get the Agi, so I think I got the same time as him, which means I'd still have 8 by 4, so 32, 33 attacks, presumably 75% hits, so like 24 hits, wounding on 4s, 12, yeah, I think, 8 wounds is probably my average there, and I would expect him with all of his attacks to do more than that. And then he's also still got the charge. He's got a rank bonus. He's got a rear charge. So if I let them get into the rear, I think I lose that. Which means that all of a sudden, we're 1-1 on scoring units. I've lost 500 points that I probably didn't need to. And I've got a fleeing gargoyle unit, a fleeing giant who can, lose me points or panic other things. It was just a really silly move that I think ended up working out okay because the giant held. But I could see the ways that this could go very poorly if I didn't hold there. And I didn't need to do it. So it was a dumb move that was, particularly in the context of the game where I feel like I'm quite strong over on the right and handling the left, really was sort of like inviting disaster. And I shouldn't have done it, and I got lucky that it didn't go wrong, basically. Over on the left-hand side of the board, I'm just continuing doing the same thing. He's using his Stygiusaur to try and hurt my Gortachs. I'm just sort of darting in and out, trying to zone him off. I don't know what will be next, but we'll find out. Okay, so in the end, it looks like my giant actually... He must have killed him. I want to see how that happened. I don't know. However it happened, my giant, by the looks of it, killed his Cav, which is surprising given that he would have had 7 attacks, winning on 3s, and he would have had a 2-up armor save. Because the fact that he's facing to the left means that he must have already... Unless I'm missing a magic... I don't think so. No, okay, so I think maybe I either killed him in 2 rounds, or he broke the next round and I chased him down, and then moved back to here. Because this is after my next movement phase, and we would have been fighting in his next combat phase as well. But basically what's happened over here is I'm moving my scoring units over further to safety. I've shifted my Gortachs around because he's pushed up down on that left, so I'm sort of staying off. Got my character charge into his Saurus Warriors. I think it was like a 10 or something I needed to get in there. So pretty makeable, but there was sort of no downside to not getting in, so I just went for it. Particularly because if we go back to that, you can see it on either one. I set up my Chariots so that none of them were touching the wall. Like, it's on the unit boundary, but it's not touching the model, so I wasn't having to take those DTs. And then, yeah, basically just sort of setting up here, going like, cool, I'm happy that I've taken out both the Cav units, I've taken out the Spearbacks, I'm going to take out your Saurus Warriors, and that'll win me the objective. It'll give me a pretty tidy points win. Don't need to worry too much about pushing up and taking a risk over on the left. Yeah, that's just the other side of the board, and as you can see, that's sort of his position with his 2 Carno Lords here. He's still got Chaff over here. His Razortusk are pushing up, but they really don't want to fight anything. We had the discussion during the game, like, these guys aren't really cut out to fight anything of mine that is too scary, really. They don't want to fight the characters, they don't want to fight the Gortachs, because they're only strength 4. So yeah, he's sort of like playing fairly defensive over here, but at this point, it's almost like, well, I've won the game, so you need to do something to sort of try and bring it back to you. Okay. We've missed some important things, so I'm just going to go back to here to sort of say what happened, basically. So I think, presumably the middle Carno Lord, but one of them, I don't really know, from here basically went, look, I can bring my Rippers over here to chaff your... so if he brings them sort of on the edge of this hill, I don't have enough room to turn around with my Chariots after I kill the Warriors. If I turn them 3 wide, they've reformed so they can't charge. So basically he was able to do that to block them from charging. And just pushed his Carno Lord up and said, like, you know what, I've got to take a risk, I'm going to try and fight you. The other one was over to sort of countercharge as well, but he wasn't able to get up as aggressively. It wasn't a long charge for either Gortach. One of them was in the flank, and I think he needed maybe a 7 or something. The other guy needed like a 4 on the dice to get into the front. But the guy in the front here, Flash Gorgon, he failed his charge, and just the one in the front, Gorgon Ramsey, he got into the flank. I think in Magic I was able to get up +1 strength. We'll probably be able to see it in this next picture. No, it's not there. Whatever. Able to get up +1 strength, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, basically the Gortach ate the Carno Lord, continued running to the position that you see him in now. He's taken 3 wounds from the Lord, but the other guy's taken 4 wounds, I think, from all the magic damage and shit. And my Chariots basically, to get them into sort of a relevant position, I had to move them 3 wide. I think that was because of magic ranges. I think if I kept them too wide, I think I couldn't sort of position them where I wanted, and I had to do that to get them within range for like Druidism or Shamanism range or something. It turns out it's the Pterodons there. Man, I don't know, maybe this is just distorted view, but somehow the Pterodons from here were able to get over to there. So, I don't know, maybe I've missed something in between. But basically, yeah, so they were able to block me. From here, my opponent's going to charge the Rippers into this Gortach, and he's going to kill it. I'm going to be able to charge with something else. His other Kano got into this Gortach and killed him, basically. Overran and ended up sort of here range. And my Mongrels flank charged him. Do I have a picture of that? No. Okay, well, yeah, so this Kano here was able to get into this Gortach, killed him. My Mongrels flank charged him, sort of hoping for the best. I pumped him up with magic. I don't think I got him. I did some wounds to him. I don't think I got him. That was sort of more me knowing that I might need big points. I was like, I might need to kill this guy rather than just avoid him. But yeah, basically at the end of the game, I had killed the Pterodons, I'd killed the Rippers, I'd killed the 2 units of Cav, and 1 unit of the Saurus, and I killed his, I'm pretty sure, General Kano Lord, but never killed this other Kano Lord at the end of the game. And in terms of me, it looks like the giant that I had up the top who'd killed the Spearbacks died to... Oh, this would have been these Pterodons. Yeah, so, okay, so I'm wrong. These guys didn't come over to chaff my chariots. It was these guys who were here. So these guys jumped over to chaff me here because I had nothing to kill them with. That's how they got there. Okay. I killed those ones after they'd killed my giant. So basically, on my end, I lost one of my giants and I lost both of my Gortachs. I lost 1 unit of Gargoyles and maybe the second. I don't really see what happened. As we can see, these guys were fleeing down here. I think they actually ended up alive at the end of the game. But yeah, basically it was enough for a 13-7 win on points, and then with the objective took me to a 16-4. And that was the end of the event, which took me to, what? 16, 11, 27, 37, 48, 64. So I was on 64 points after 5 games, and I was able to actually get the 3rd place in the tournament. I'll just bring up the standings. Okay, I'm just going to move my little picture over. Where's better? Down here. Down here is probably the best. So I got 3rd, which is the best result I've ever gotten in a 2-day tournament, like in real life event. Following with a very similar list, the best result I've ever gotten in these online events. So I'm thinking this B-Side list is going pretty well for me and working out well. So, I don't know if you guys remember back to my list review and my predictions and stuff, but the guys ahead of me are the people I said were going to be 1 and 2. I had Trickster taking number 1 and Akhtar coming 2nd, but Akhtar got 1st with 5 straight wins. Trickster managed to get 2nd despite a loss and a draw, which is pretty good. I actually managed to beat him, so I'm pretty happy with that. But as you can see sort of below us, like, I was on 94 points, and this is after getting, like, painting scores and not being a dickhead scores and stuff. Below us are 2 people on 92, then a couple of people on 89. So Sam had an unfortunate day 2, where, I'll just go into him. Yeah, so he only got a 4 against Akhtar in a really, really bad matchup, and then Trickster managed to get 18 against him, so... despite the fact that he went really, really well in day 1, the unlucky day 2 basically left him out of the podium contention. But, well, I say not out of the podium contention, but off the podium where he was looking very, very solid day 1. But, like, there's 5 points splitting, you know, these 5 people pushing for 3rd. So realistically, I think, you know, I had a tournament that I was very happy with. I got 3rd, but at the same time, it's like, well, there were a lot of people around this point, so, you know, some different results in a few places would have changed things pretty immensely. But I was pretty happy because basically, like, I went through the tournament without losing a game. I did draw my game 3, and I did get to 11-9 wins, but this game path looks pretty satisfying to my eyes, to be honest. yeah, basically happy with the tournament, happy with the list. I'm just... it's been 25 minutes. I've got enough time now. I don't want to do a full list review. Basically, I'm very happy with almost everything in this list. The Giants, I really like against Demons, but it seems like against a lot of armies, like this tournament against ID, against Dwarves even, against the units that were on the flank in this game, and even Game 4, where I was like, they were both on the flank with a unit they didn't want to engage, and 2+ Cav. I think the AP0 might make them a bit limited, so I'll be looking probably to try out other things for their points, but otherwise I was pretty happy with everything in the list. The latest round of points update, so this was after the first round, and it essentially cost me Dark Rain. The next round gave me more points, and I think my latest update, I had 2 Cyclops rather than the Giants. I had Dark Rain, and I lost Hunting Call in the General. And I think I had to lose a unit of Gargoyles, and I had to make them into Feral Hounds because of the change of Cyclops being more expensive than Giants. So there's a few things to sort of fiddle around with and change and look at. But overall, very happy with the list, very happy with the event. Overall, Cancon was just like, it was so much fun to be back with the boys rolling dice again. I had great opponents. Like, I had no issues in any of my games at all. Typically, I don't really have many issues. I can't really think of... I don't know. There's a very small amount of people that I've ever played where we've actually had issues on the table. And I saw nothing in this event. Everyone was really, really nice. Everyone was great to play against. Yeah, basically, really fun tournament. I'm not sure when my next real life one will be. There's a few coming up, but I've sort of got to figure things out, particularly with rugby and around like 2-day tournaments and not wanting to miss games. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what online events might be running or what I'm going to play, but I am playing in one right now. We've finished 4 rounds, so I've just got 1 round left to play. So I missed out on round 2 because my opponent couldn't find a time. But basically, I've got 3 more games to put up, so I've got plenty of ideas still to come. And yeah, look, I hope you enjoyed this report. I hope you enjoyed the reports from all of Cancon. Keen to hear your thoughts on any of the games. If you guys have thoughts or ideas on sort of things I could have done differently, ideas on the list. If you want to yell at me because Beastherds were the last in the tier list, but they're by far and obviously the army that I'm best with, so maybe they're not quite as bad as people think. Feel free to go ahead. Yeah, anything you guys want. Yeah, look, got nothing else to say, so see you guys.